Welcome to the OK, Let's Learn podcast, where we dive into books, stories, people, and tons of different topics. And today, let's learn and read and talk about Lost Evangeline. Before you continue, this book by Kate DiCamillo, this is our third episode for book 5. And before you continue, you want to stop the podcast. You want to basically read chapter 7 through chapter 15, reading from page 34 to 81. So we will dive into everything that has happened and some thoughts along the way for this third of the Norendy Tales. First one being the Puppets of Spellhorse, the second one being the Hotel Balzar, and now a Lost Evangeline. So we start with chapter 7, and Evangeline is asked by her father, "Did you hear what the man said?" "I did not." And what Evangeline said was not the truth. And tell me you understand, Evangeline, when a person, this man comes in or anybody comes in, and you hear the bell ring, when the door opens, you must disappear. I understand. And then the author writes, and oh yeah, she heard every word the manservant uttered. Yeah, the manservant, Gristle, what a name. And Gristle basically said, hey, I'm going to pay anything you want. This lady I work for will not compromise, and she will pay anything. And sure enough, what happens at the end of this chapter? The cobbler's wife ends up overhearing everything, and certainly she says to herself, would it not be good for my husband if this strange child were simply to disappear? Would it not break the magic spell and return him to himself and make him give up this silly fantasy of going away to the sea? And there's this picture on page 39. She goes out. She grabs Evangeline, puts her in a little sack, and literally gets paid in gold, pieces of gold from Gristle. Are you kidding me? Even if your marriage is not that great, this lady, this is what I'm thinking. This lady, does she really believe her husband is just going to go back to his ways and give up on his dreams about going to the sea? He's calling Evangeline, his daughter. Yes, she's magic, but no. You have to give and take with a marriage. And we've got our antagonist, shoemaker's wife, who is not a good person. We head into chapter 8, and Evangeline is all of a sudden on the nightstand of Miss Penrith Smith. She says, sing to me. Evangeline, she felt a wave of terror roll over her. She bent over and put her hands on her knees and tried to take a deep breath. Are you preparing to sing? Evangeline started singing, but she did not sing, only because of the bargain she had made with the old woman. She sang too to comfort herself. This is what's happening in this chapter. She has been kidnapped. She has been taken from her father. And what does she say? She says to herself that she's clever, she's courageous, and she's kind, and she's someone who is beloved. What again, great job by the author. You just are rooting for poor little Evangeline, and she sings. The woman goes off to sleep, and there she goes. A great vocabulary word. Listen to this one. I had no idea what this was. She ended up jumping off the bed, leaped from the nightstands onto the bed, then inched along the length of the duvet, D-U-V-E-T, inched along the length of the duvet and swung from it to the floor. So yes, a duvet is like a comforter, but it's a little different. It's basically what goes over your bed, your sheets on your bed, and she's hanging from it and she jumps to the floor. She's clearly lost. She's on her adventure. And like I said, we're rooting for her. And then we learn in chapter 9 that, yeah, she's 10 years old. What's unclear at this point is what was her previous life, right? I hope you're thinking about that. Also, I don't have a sense, and again, I could be wrong here. I'll go back, but I don't have a sense of how long she's been with the shoemaker. I don't think it's long, right? I think the author would have told us this. But the time she spent with the shoemaker, she's talking about, it's an imaginative, great life in terms of what she has in front of her. And it's the stars, it's the sea, it's just wonderful, imaginative life ahead of her, whether it's the seagulls ahead of her, it's the mermaids singing beguiling songs, as the author writes, or it's just adventure that she's ultimately thinking of. And as she's heading down this dark hallway, not knowing where she's going, what's interesting is Kate DiCamillo does is that, again, this character that you're rooting for, why? Because she's steadfast. And it's through all these imaginative worlds out there that she can take this on, right? She's ready. And she is not at all shy or timid in any way. And then, of course, what ends up happening? Just like the other two stories in the Norendy Tales that we're singing, she's singing to herself. Right? And you got to listen to this song. Evangeline of the sea and stars, where have you gone and will you return? Evangeline is lost. Where can she be? Oh, Evangeline, Evangeline, won't you journey over the dark sea? Journey under the bright stars and return, oh, return, lost Evangeline, to me. Right? In Hotel Balzar, her father was lost. We didn't know if he was coming back. Right? And the puppets, the spell horse. Oh boy, right? Those puppets were definitely lost. So a clearly theme going through all three of these tales. And here we now have Evangeline. She goes to the end of this hallway and she sees this fireplace and she turns around and what does she see? A huge marmalade-colored cat was sitting on the flagstone store staring right at her. This is how chapter 9 ends and we're into chapter 10. So what do we learn about this cat? This cat has got a personality. And you could just know this because the first words that come out of the cat's mouth. And again, you know it's a fairy tale. You know it's a fantasy because this cat is talking. What is your name? Said Evangeline. My name? Said the cat. What use would I have for a name? I am myself. And that's the end of that discussion. Just like the pompous king, just like the overconfidence wolf and the puppets of spell horse, and just like that, I know everything countess from the Hotel Balzar. We've got a personality in the form of this cat that is just sarcastic and talking back, and we get to learn that Evangeline starts to use the cat as a way to find her father. And the cat starts talking to her. And you talk about a sentence that is packed full of just power words, high-level vocabulary, and right up Kate DiCamillo's alley. The cat is talking about, do you know what my job is? Yeah, I'm after vermin, right? Vermin, mice, rats, the occasional misguided mole. All of them are pests that I must dispatch and do, in fact, dispatch with a modicum of alacrity. Are you kidding me? I mean, you know, I challenge any adult to tell me modicum of alacrity. Yeah, with a small way of like having fun. I'm definitely having fun. So I'm not a vermin. So Evangeline basically is toe-to-toe with this sarcastic, leave me alone, cat, and I'm not interested in talking to you, cat. And here's what happens. The cat says, should I dispatch you? What do you think? And Evangeline comes right back at him. Yeah, you should dispatch me home. Are you speaking euphemistically? Nope. I'm speaking, hey, take me. This is what she basically says, right? Take me to my father's shop. Evangeline proceeds to try to bargain with this cat in terms of what she can do to get the cat to bring her to her father. And ultimately, she's talking about, you know what? I can sing. So as chapter 10 wraps up, we have a cat that seems really intrigued with this little person, and she is smart. Evangeline is not only saying, hey, I can sing, but you know what? I can bring you down to the sea, and this cat is intrigued by this. She keeps talking about the sea and how she's going to go out there with her father, and the cat ultimately, at the end, this is a great line to wrap up chapter 10. Listen to this. Very well, the cat says. You may accompany me on my rounds and provide some amusement by telling me of these wonders. And then, well, we shall see what we shall see, or see, if you forgive me another pun. As we go into chapter 11, here's what I'm thinking. If you're a fan of Kate DiCamillo, you know about the miraculous adventures of Edward Tulane, and Edward Tulane was lost. What a great story. My favorite book that she has written. And what I'm thinking clearly here is I would really like it if we have some other people that Evangeline runs into that can help her on her journey, that we can just, something parallel or similar to Edward Tulane. Not exactly, right? But what do we have here? Nothing is happening with good old Bristol and Mrs. Penrith Smith. Shouldn't they be involved? We're just having this cat? I mean, is this going to be how we're going to proceed here? So clearly we got to wonder, is the father out there looking for Evangeline at this point? Will Evangeline have the cat lead her to her father? Where are we going with this story? I just hope we have a little bit more action and adventure. And certainly, in my opinion, it's really slowing down. All of chapter 11 is just Evangeline talking to the cat about trying to convince him to go out to the sea, and it's great, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, I'm not happy right now. As we head into chapter 12, I'll say something that's pretty obvious to most readers out there. And young children, those of you that are listening, this is important to realize. Your mood will affect how you're reading a particular story. If you're looking to get certain things out of the story, if you have certain expectations, then your lens on how the book is proceeding will follow that. In other words, if you're expecting that it's going to be great and it's not great, well, guess what? That is huge. I'll never forget, we went to see Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. I thought it was going to be a joke of a movie. And those of you that know that series, I think they're on movie 6 now. It became a juggernaut, and it was just so amazing. And still to this day, it's my favorite movie. Why? Because I expected so little, and it exceeded every expectation I have. So this is the environment that I'm coming into this book with. This author is so fantastic, as you've heard me talk about. I'm a little bit happier now as we go into chapter 12. Why? Because we're moving to some of the same themes that you've seen throughout the first 2 books of the Norendy Tales. A few things happened that just made me laugh out loud. You've got this sarcastic, surly, grumpy cat, and Evangeline says, look up at the stars. Look, there's Venus. If you say so, says the cat. And by the way, that's what she refers to. This cat has no name, like I mentioned before. It's just cat. Hey, cat, can I jump up on your back? Ride on me? As if I were some beast of burden? What a great line. And if you're as old enough as I am, you know that Rolling Stones song. Oh, my goodness. What a great line. So Evangeline jumps up on the back of the cat's back, and the cat says, do not ever touch my ears. Of course, I beg your pardon. And here is where you have these moments of appreciation at the bottom of page 67. And by the way, on the previous page, take a look at the illustrations. They're beautiful. You have this one, may look familiar. It's on the cover of the book. She's riding the cat's back. She says, who would have thought that she would find herself here on the back of a cat under a star-studded sky, out in the wide world, making her way home after a great adventure, right? And she talks about how the shoemaker would be so proud of her. But you have this flashback to the puppets and how they hadn't been able to have much excitement in their life, right? From the Puppets of Spellhorse, the first book of the Norendy Tales. And here they are experiencing this wide open world out from the confines of, in the puppet's case, hanging in the window of this toy shop, and obviously Evangeline, although we still don't know her backstory, right? She was with her shoemaker father and just home, but here she is now all out on her own. We now get into chapter 13. She's there in front of her father's shop and she says, oh my goodness, he will be at his workbench because he's an early riser, right? So what happens once they go in? And by the way, she says, oh, help me, open the door. And the cat says, expect nothing of me. I can't open doors. And Evangeline was angry, frustrated in that moment. And this is a great line. She thought that if she were in charge of naming this marmalade cat, she would call her expect nothing of me cat. Oh boy. So here's what happens. Bottom line is he's not there. And right away, you know something happened to him and you're thinking the worst. As I was with my class, as we were reading this together, and keep in mind, I have no idea what's happening next. I'm thinking, oh no, he passed away. Please don't have this happen. Oh no, something happened to him if he didn't pass away. And then, of course, another student came up with the right answer. Clearly, as I was thinking in the wrong direction. No, he went out to look for Evangeline. Of course he did. And you know what the evidence was? That he went out, he took Evangeline's little lantern by her bedside. It wasn't there. Now we're into chapter 13, and keep in mind, this cat is only helping out because apparently this idea about going out to sea or approaching the sea sounds interesting, so he's going along. So Evangeline basically tells the cat, we got to get out of here, we got to find my father. Where do they go? Up on top of the hill. And by the way, I asked my class, what do you remember was the name of the top of the hill? Because the author had written it in the beginning of the book when the shoemaker was sitting there and put Evangeline in the palm of his hands as they looked over the sea. I didn't remember it. As I read it, I knew I wouldn't have remembered it. But yes, none of my students were able to come up with it. It was called the Crow's Nest. So they look over it. They look down at the sea. They can't find their father. This is a brilliant idea from Evangeline's point of view. And then the cat is like, oh, there, he's not there. I've held up my end of the bargain. There's not much that I can do. And then Evangeline surprisingly says, go then. How's that? Said the cat, turning and looking at her. Go ahead. Go to sea. As you're thinking in this moment, what is she doing? This is her pathway to moving and finding her father. Is Evangeline at this point just giving up? And then finally, as we wrap up this episode of the podcast, she pulls her knees to her chest and wraps her arms around her legs, starts to sing. I have lost the shoemaker. Where can he be? Oh, shoemaker, shoemaker. Oh, Papa, please. Journey over the dark sea, journey under the bright stars, and return to me, right? So there you have, again, the second connection that is just one of many that weaves throughout the Norendy Tales. She is searching for her father, not just to find him, right? Just like we have in the puppets, where the girls are trying to find the lost puppets, but we have Evangeline hoping for her father's return, just like Marta in the Hotel Balzar was hoping for her father's return. Lost and found. Both of them are a huge metaphor for the entire trilogy and a metaphor for so many other things in life, right? If you're looking to get a deep meaning from a story, it's not just about connecting to other stories, it's about connecting to your life. That's when you're comprehending. That's when you're really thinking well. And thankfully, I'm into the story as we wrap up another episode of Lost Evangeline, Book 5, Episode 3. We are now into, as they say here in the book, Book the Second. Thanks for being with me on this journey. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. If you can give me a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts, it's always appreciated. Subscribe and follow the podcast. And until next time, have fun and keep learning.